All right, welcome to Talkin' Investing. I am Tom, and as always, this is not financial advice. Today, I want to go through Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners, and I have a brand new analysis. I want to show you a chart that I made that shows the companies that I believe the market is pricing in to potentially go out of business during this crypto winter. So we'll go through that. So we talk about Bitcoin and Bitcoin miners all the time on this channel. So if that's content that you're interested in, please remember to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Also, if everybody would please smash the like button, it helps out a lot. We're almost at 10,000 subscribers. So if you guys could subscribe, I really would appreciate it. So with that said, let's talk about Bitcoin. Okay, so first I'm going to go to the Bitcoin miner board. Now the trading is not open in the US today, so all the NASDAQ stocks are not trading. However, I like to look at the Canadian exchange when this happens. There's 4 Bitcoin miners that I follow that are actively trading right now. So let's take a look and see what's happening to those. So as you can see, the board is green today. And when we get to the chart, I think you'll see that the Bitcoin is reflecting that. So not a big move anywhere. Bitfarms up 1.7%, Hut up 0.5%, Hive up 0.5%. DigiHost has been fluctuating. They were down. Now they're up 3%. So a little bit of a green day, and we do seem to have a little bit of momentum in Bitcoin. So again, the NASDAQ stocks are not trading today. They will trade tomorrow, so we'll have to wait and see what happens to the rest of the group. That's what's going on with the Canadian miners today. So let's take a look at Bitcoin on the 1-hour time frame. As always, there's an orange line where the market closed on Friday, the previous trading day, and Bitcoin was at $19,366 when the market closed on Friday in the US. So you'll see we've spent most of the time. It is now Monday, so we've had the entire weekend. It's now Monday. We've spent most of this time underneath that line. We did pick up some momentum overnight last night and into this morning, and it seems to be sort of holding on right now. So we're at a little bit of a 3 or 4 day high. It seems like we're testing our line at just under $20,000. We did pop over this line. You'll see in this 1-hour candle, we got up to $20,095. So we did go above the line for a moment. It didn't hold. So what we're going to start to see over the next 1 or 2 days is, can we get back above that line and turn it back into support, or are we going to get rejected there and turn it into resistance? And I think the answer to that over the next few days is going to decide what direction that we're going to be headed in for the next few weeks. So let's just zoom out a little bit. Okay, I'm going to go all the way to the Bitcoin on the 1-day time frame, so we can just clearly see this is the line at $20,000. You'll see 4 days ago we had a red candle. We closed way below this line, and since then we spent a couple of days sideways, but this is 1, 2, 3 days now where we have so far started and finished the day below our $20,000 line. Now, today we're actually giving up some pressure. This is the first time we've tested it, so we'll have to see how today goes. If this green candle persists and closes above this line, that actually would be significant. So obviously we'll have to wait until the end of the day to see where that ends, but there's a little bit of momentum, so nothing to get that excited about. The other thing to look at on this chart is I've added the 200-week simple moving average, and this is only the third time in the history of Bitcoin we've ever gone below this line. The other 2 times we very quickly went right back above it and turned it back into support. So we're now more than 2 weeks into going below this line, and you can see we did have a week of serious momentum away from the line. We're rallying a little bit, but we're still well underneath this line. So this right here really represents some of the most bearish activity in the history of Bitcoin. So it's a little encouraging to see a couple of green candles here in a row, but we're going to have to wait and see where we go from here. Like I said, the only other 2 times we were ever below this 200-week moving average, we very quickly, and by very quickly I mean within a couple of days or a week, moved right back above this line. So this has never happened before. We're going to have to see. I am expecting us to at least test this line at some point. It's a very relevant line, so to not even go back and test it would be a surprise to me, but we will see, because also I am expecting to go test some points lower. So I think we're stuck in a range. I think we could see Bitcoin go down as low as 16,000. I'm not expecting that, but I do think we could see that. And I do think at some point we're going to test this line, the 200-week moving average, which is coming in somewhere around 22,500. So until we break to the upside or the downside of one of those, this seems to be another one of these periods where we've settled in and we are trading sideways. So I'm not going to spend too much more time looking at the Bitcoin chart. We did a detailed analysis of that yesterday if you want to take a look. Right now I've put together a chart of how the market is reacting to each one of these Bitcoin miners. So I want to take a closer look at the Bitcoin miners, and one of the big questions is who's going to survive, who's not going to survive? Are we in a crypto winter? Are there companies that are in danger? So I want to show you what the actual marketplace thinks. So I'm going to give you some data that I think really points out that the risk profile on a few of these Bitcoin miners has changed drastically in the last few weeks. And remember, things are moving fast right now. So over the last couple of weeks, there have been some major adjustments. The overall cryptocurrency world has suffered some big blows, and, starting back with the Terra Luna situation, but most recently with the Three Arrow situation, the Voyager situation, the BlockFi situation. There's been a lot of negative news, and I think that you will see when we go to this chart that the market has adjusted, and there's a few Bitcoin miners that really stand out that I think the market has changed their risk profile on big time. So I want to go through those and then go through some of the other miners that I think the market is indicating they're very worried about. Okay, so I'm just going to go through 3 different charts. The first one we'll go through real quickly. We've looked at this one before. This is an update. Here are the 17 publicly traded Bitcoin miners that I track from the NASDAQ. So the last time I updated this was June 16th. So the total market cap was $4.3 billion for all the Bitcoin miners put together as of June 16th. So there was still 2 weeks left in June at that time. You can see now I've updated this for June 30th. That is now down to $3.7 billion. So we lost $638 million of market cap amongst all of the publicly traded Bitcoin miners in just the last 2 weeks. So overall, that's about a 15% decline in a 2-week period of time. So in this column, I have each one of these companies all-time high, which happened for most of these companies in November of 2021, but for some of these companies earlier in the year, in January and February of 2021. So if we look at this chart, basically from the all-time highs of the last, let's call it 18 months, the best performing Bitcoin miner is down 88%, and that is Bitfarms. So there are no real winners right now on this list. Down 88% means the market is priced in that they're deeply concerned about this company. But Bitfarms and Iris Energy at 88 and 88.1% are actually leading the pack. If we go to the bottom of this list, there are some companies that are in drastically worse condition than that. TeraWulf is now down 97.3%. So to me, the difference between 88 and 97 is drastic. In other words, for Bitfarms to get down to where TeraWulf is, it would have to drop another 50%, and then it would have to drop another 50% again after that. So even though these numbers look very similar, there is a massive difference. So these Bitcoin miners that are down at 95, 96, 97, I think the market has at some point priced in that they're deeply concerned about these companies. So the closer you are to the bottom of this list, I would say the more concerned the market is overall as to your ability to stay in business. And you'll see, I think the market is expecting a lot of these companies to not make it through whatever we're going through right now. But I have a more specific analysis than this that I want to look at that's going to show you what the market's done in the last 2 weeks, because I think it's really called out a few companies and changed their risk profile. So those are the ones I want to talk about that I think the market is saying are in deep risk of not making it through the crypto winter. First, I want to show you one other chart. If we look at our market cap right now, it's at $3.7 billion for all the publicly traded Bitcoin miners as of June 30th. I just want to go back to February 28th. That was 4 months ago. 4 months ago, every single one of these miners was at or near their 52-week low. They were all, not all at it, but they were all in the neighborhood of their 52-week low. So these had already basically crashed anywhere from 60 to 80% at this point. So even after that crash, the total market cap for these Bitcoin miners was $15 billion. This is with all of them near their 52-week lows. So when we go back to this chart, you'll see that $15 billion, which was the lowest that number ever was over the course of the last 6 months, has now turned into $3.7 billion. So we are off drastically even since February 28th. Let's get to the chart of what happened in the last 2 weeks, because I think that's where we're going to see the market has spoken on a few of these companies. This column right here represents the change in stock price and market cap of these companies over the last 2 weeks of June. So this is a 2-week period, and you'll see a lot of these companies had drastically different results in this 2-week period. The average was about down 12%. But I want to focus on the bottom of this list. There are 3 companies at the bottom of this list. Core Scientific was down 32% in those 2 weeks. TeraWulf was down 37% in those 2 weeks, and Mawson was down 37% in those 2 weeks. For me, those drastic moves say that the market has changed their risk assessment on these 3 companies just over the last few weeks. All of these numbers were already at or near their all-time lows prior to this pullback. There's a couple other companies, Marathon and Greenidge, that were down 19%. So that was a little worse than average. So I think the market's also speaking on those to a lesser extent. So that's your bottom 5, but I want to add a few others to this list. I've highlighted 3 in yellow up here. These 3 did not have a bad 2 weeks, but I believe that is because the market had already priced in the fear of these companies going out of business. So in other words, Digital was up 7% in these 2 weeks. However, that leaves them down 96% on the year. That's one of the worst performances overall. So what that really just means is that for Digital, the market had already given up on them prior to these last 2 weeks, so they didn't have this giant risk assessment change. They just remained where they were at, which is the market pricing them basically, essentially, with a huge risk of going out of business. And the same thing can be said of Stronghold, stock ticker SDIG. That was up 1% over these 2 weeks, but that leaves them down 95.4%. So again, I think they were already priced in. These companies have had some specific stories. So, do your due diligence. There's some reasons that they are down worse than, the average one of these Bitcoin miners. The third company is DMG Blockchain. That was only down 4%, but that leaves them down 96% in total. So again, I think that just means they were already priced to fail. So I think if I was to really look at this and say there's 6 companies the market are most deeply concerned about, it would be Digital, Stronghold, DMG Blockchain, Core Scientific, TeraWolf, and Mawson. I will make my own personal list and rank these in order of which ones I think have the most serious risk of going out of business, right? None of us know which one of these will succeed and which ones won't. And obviously a lot of this is dependent on the price of Bitcoin and on management's ability to navigate their way through what is a very, very difficult time here in the cryptocurrency world. So none of this is financial advice, of course. These are just the numbers. They are what they are. But you can see the market, I think, had previously already spoken on 3 companies, and I think it added 3 to the list in the last 2 weeks. So that's the list. Those are the 6 that I would point out in specific, and then right behind those 2 would be Greenidge and Marathon. So that's the list. That's what's going on. The last piece of information we'll give is that you'll see overall, on the average, these companies are down 93% off of their highs of the last 18 months. So this industry, the Bitcoin miners, are down 93%. So obviously this is an industry in distress. Money tends to dry up. Obviously down 93%, raising money through equity is very difficult. So it's going to be about how much money and liquidity these companies have access to currently and what's their ability to raise money through debt. So I will keep my eye on this list. If anything changes or if there's a major update, we will talk about that. I'm also going to go through, like I said, and give my own 5 companies that I am the most worried about. If we just finish up on the Bitcoin 1 hour time frame, you'll see we're at about 19,697. That really is towards the high end of where we've been for the last 4 days. We are still under our critical line where I'm calling around $20,000, technically about 19,890. So that's what's going on with Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners. I will check in again tomorrow, of course, when all the NASDAQ companies are reopened and trading. We'll see how Bitcoin is doing. So if you made it this far, please remember to subscribe to the channel and smash the like button. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.